Hotel brothers and sisters, Black Power, as always, giving honor to the Creator, giving honor to the ancestors. Chief of Staff, Brother Harris Abdul, my sister, my in-laws, my father, my subscribers, family, and all of those who are fighting for the liberation and salvation of our black nation. Now, I want to discuss this situation, this little thing with D.L.Hughley and Terry Crews. Now, D.L.Hughley, who I admire D.L.Hughley. He's come a long way. He had to, even though he's part of the oath takers, the alphas and all that bullshit. However, he's like somewhat like a Dick Gregory, but he's more committed with telling the truth and not hiding a lot of things and keeping a lot of things away from his people. But D.L.Hughley, who had to learn the hard way in entertainment in Hollywood, you know, he had his own show and all of this, but the scripts didn't sit well with him, where he had to love his white neighbors, and there's a whole bunch of shit that went down with that. But now he's coming from a conscious level, the conscious energy that we all have in us, but we have to activate that energy. However, he's activated it. And when Terry Crews, now, once again, when D.L.Hughley made a statement about Terry Crews, Mr. Muscle Man, wanted to smack D.L.Hughley. When D.L.Hughley asked him why wouldn't he respond correctly, and this is a result of Mr. Terry Crews, Mr. Muscle Man, the new Debo for Ice Cube, who, while at dinner with his wife, his former agent, I forgot this devil's name, grabbed his dick at the motherfucking dinner table. But yet, when D.L.Hughley gave a response, you respond to D.L.Hughley, should I slap the shit out of you? See, but you won't. See, this is what I'm saying about these niggas, man. You know, you'll jump and say something to D.L.Hughley, but you won't say that. You didn't say nothing to the cracker that grabbed your motherfucking dick, in which you probably led him on. Now, mind you, this motherfucker played a faggot in Friday After Next, and he played a homosexual in another movie. So you in a Ice Cube movie watching the Tupac video, wanting Tupac to bust your motherfucking, knock your brake pads off your ass, and then the next minute you got a dress on laying up on the bed. And so when this Ice Ape, who's a born faggot, I told y'all these motherfuckers are naturally, that's a natural energy and vibration that's in these motherfucking crackers. They're born faggots. I'll give you an example. If you just say a prison setting where 4 guys want to rape a black guy, the average black guy gonna fight to the goddamn death before he allow you to take him like that. The white boy will say, "Don't hurt me, guys," because that's a natural energy and vibration in them. But see, this old steroid eating, biscuit eating, spandex wearing around the house while cooking eggs, faggot, Because I believe under all that motherfucking gristle, you like that muscle too. You like that motherfucking that elbow in your motherfucking butt. That's what I think. Fuck all them muscles and shit. Cause see, a lot of motherfuckers, do all that weightlifting and, be all buffed and shit to try to keep a motherfucker from fucking with them. But under that, probably is a motherfucking queen. And your wife probably knows that. Because why didn't, now, if it was me and if a motherfucker done that to me, I'd have slapped him clean across the entire restaurant. First of all, I would have been able to sense that vibration out. I'll never eat with a motherfucking cracker anyway. So that's out. That's a no-no anyway. I would never break bread with no motherfucking devil. And so, Terry Crews, he'll smack the shit out of D.L.Hughley, somebody that looked like him. But why didn't you smack the motherfucker that grabbed your dick? Now, you went on television talking about it and playing like you just hurting the victim and you was so much in shock. But it's impossible for you to be in shock when you playing roles. When you playing these roles before millions of people on the silver screen portraying to be a motherfucking fruitcake. A big cut up motherfucking gump. So, you're not fooling nobody with that. And Willie D, he made it clear to your motherfucking ass that DL is okay. So don't attempt to go lay hands on him. Make sure you stop at the Cracker's house. And this is after he worked you for millions of dollars because he was your agent. So he knows a little bit more about you. But all that old muscle man shit, and these crackers, they got families but they straight motherfucking queens. They don't want no motherfucking women. And you ran flexing and all this shit, man. That's walking around with your shirt off and, walking through the house naked and with spandex on, eating Jell-O and all that old shit, man. You suspect as a motherfucker. Now, I'm just going to go into a little bit of Marvin Gaye. This has to be a 2-part series. But let me just go ahead. Marvin Pence Gaye, actually, he was born and raised here in the Lincoln Heights section of Washington, D.C., which was and is still a notorious area. However, Marvin was able to get away, get out of that environment, that negative environment, stay out of trouble, and began singing in the church. That took him away and took him out of the thug element, because Marvin was not a thug, but he wasn't a punk either. He wasn't a punk, but he wasn't no hardcore thug. His voice, he sang his way and his family's way out of the hood. Marvin had a remarkable voice, and he was an extraordinary entertainer. Born April 2nd, 1939, and April the 1st, he lost his life from a couple of gunshot wounds. And He was born in Freedman's Hospital to Marvin Sr. and Alberta Gaye. When he went to Motown, because I'm going to go around, I'm going to skip, I'm going to go back and forth. When he went to Motown to meet Berry Gordy, he had put an impression on Berry Gordy by having an extraordinary voice, and he was able to stand toe-to-toe with all of the Motown stars at that time, the Temptations, Smokey Robinson, all of them. He was able to stand toe-to-toe with them. And then he met the sister, Tammy Terrell. Tammy Terrell was a straight soldier. Now, as you notice, the brothers always wore suits, shine shoes. The sisters always wore dresses. Even the thugs, even the street soldiers, even the ride or die chicks, they dressed up every day. They didn't believe in wearing jeans. If you wore jeans, you were straight from the backwoods of Mississippi. And they called them dungarees at that time. You were called a straight farmer. And so they really put that attire on. And as you can see, those styles, especially these men's suits, are coming back out. But, you know, these brothers, they're wearing them a little too tight. And the pants are too high. High water. He was sexually abused as a child by his uncle. In his book, he wrote that his uncle used to wake him up in the middle of the night, take him in the bathroom and violate him. And when I hear about these stories of sexual abuse of brothers and sisters who have made it and they on top of the world, I don't understand how you can allow the motherfucker that violate you to walk around and you got the money to get him, you know, get his head opened up. I struggle to understand that. Now, excuse me, I'm just going to go into freestyle this. Now, Marvin and Tammy, they fell in love. They fell in love. It was kind of like a secret romance. Although Tammy was a very, very vibrant queen. Very vibrant. And she had a remarkable voice. However, Tammy was a roughneck too. Tammy was a ride or die chick. Marvin was the laid back type. And Marvin just wanted to settle down for the things he had been through early on. He wanted to just focus on his music, settle down with a decent queen, and be wanted to go down in history as one of the greatest performers. However, Tammy wasn't ready to settle down. And Marvin began to frequent the nightlife in the clubs in Hollywood, New York, LA, and Tammy ended up meeting David Ruffin. Now, David Ruffin is one of my favorite Temptations, in spite of what people may think. David just had a lot of serious emotional damage, physical and mental damage that was done to him when he came from the South. So Tammy Terrell fell in love with him. They would always physically fight. And it is said that David Ruffin took his motorcycle helmet and cracked the top of Tammy Terrell's head with it, out of straight jealousy and insecurity, which could have possibly led to the tumors that contributed to her early death. She also dated James Brown for a while. The same thing with James Brown. James Brown was abusive to the queens. And it appeared that back in those times, a lot of that was going on where these brothers was hitting on these women. Not all of them, but the majority of them. I don't know what that stemmed from, but I believe it came from our ancestors that were being taken for bad by white America, being beaten, shot, lynched, and hung, and felt no one understood what the black man was going through. That could have been one of the reasons. And among several other reasons. They've been abused too. Hurt people hurt people. She also had a little fling with Smokey, but Smokey was too much of a puss nigga for Tammy Terrell. Smokey wasn't no fighter. Smokey wasn't no street nigga. Smokey was just a little a biscuit boy that just stayed in the shadows and just sang and had a good voice at the time. But how can you be in today's world, you still singing like with a voice of a 10-year-old? Marvin was rising to the top. Several hits he and Tammy created. And ain't no mountain high enough. You're all I need to get by. Heaven must have sent you from above. Ain't nothing like the real thing. And Tammy Terrell, her real name was Thomasina Winifred Montgomery. And although she was 6 years younger than Marvin, she passed from brain tumor and brain cancer on March the 16th, 1970. The beautiful Tammy Terrell, who fought like a soldier to the bitter end. Even when she was going through, when it appeared that her cancer was in remission, she still made attempts to sing. Marvin stood by her side till she took her last breath. And it was on March 16th, 316. For those who know the Bible, you know what 316 means. John 3:16. And Marvin, devastated. He began to get different co-singers to, in other words, he tried to get Tammy replaced, which was impossible. Impossible.
My camera is kind of becoming a key to the world.
And Marvin, devastated by Tammy, here he is with his mother.
I was lucky enough to
and with Anna Gordy. He ended up marrying Berry Gordy's sister, older sister, who is about 90 years old today, Anna Gordy Gaye. And they had a son, Marvin III, in 1965. Marvin was introduced to cocaine, heroin, alcohol, which Marvin used to as a way to deal with the devastating passing of Tammy Terrell, in which it led to Marvin being a full-blown addict, but still performing. This is what these groups and these brothers and sisters used to do, whether they had substance abuse problems or not. They still managed to perform and put on and put on phenomenal performances even when they were intoxicated. Some were so addicted they could not function or put on a good show unless they were twisted. And Marvin was one of them. Marvin was a ladies' man. But Berry Gordy, who people think once again that he owned Motown, he did not own Motown. Berry Gordy was just a talent scout. The Italians, the mobsters and the Italian gangsters in Detroit owned Motown. The mobsters in Detroit, which they moved to L.A. Mickey Cohen and all those crackers moved to L.A. and they extorted most of the black artists. Most of the black artists had to pay dues to these motherfucking guineas, with the exception of Sam Cooke, who refused, and he was murdered, and Otis Redding, who refused, and he was murdered because they stood up. The rest of them bit the bullet and were being extorted. That's why a lot of them went out and their careers was over before 1970 because they were unable to put hit after hit after hit after hit and continue to be extorted. And so what happens, once they begin to flop, they got rid of them. Also with a debt to these goddamn gangsters. Once Marvin was a ladies' man, brothers and sisters. We all know that. Made phenomenal music, but at the same time was a full-blown addict. And he took on the nightlife, partying, different women, menage a trois, whatever. Marvin, his concerts were women throwing panties on the stage. Marvin gave very, very provocative, explicit concerts. That's where Bobby Brown and the rest of them get it from. Brothers like Marvin Gaye. However, Marvin Gaye was a poor businessman and was reckless with his finances early on. And the IRS went to him and they tore off in his ass. And that's when he went overseas. But prior to going overseas, he began to get conscious, very, very conscious, because he saw what was happening to the brothers, especially those in D.C. he went to school with and grew up with. A lot of them were in Vietnam. A lot of them came back. They were strung out junkies. Unemployment was to the roof for the black man. And most of them resorted to drugs and crime. Marvin was deeply hurt and saddened by what was going on. In fact, he made his album, which Berry Gordy told him not to write the album, and Berry Gordy refused to put the album out, called What's Going On, which dealt with the Vietnam War, oil spills in the river that was connected to the black inner cities, brothers being brutalized by white racist cops. See, this police terrorism didn't just start happening for you young brothers and sisters who are tuned in. It's been going on forever. And so Marvin sung about the Vietnam War. What's going on? Make me want to holler. And so Marvin, with the advice from Berry Gordy not to put the album out, but Marvin went on and put the album out anyway, and it still goes platinum today. It's called What's Going On. He talked about the young brothers who were drafted 17 and 18 years old and taken over in Saigon in the rice paddies. A lot of them didn't make it home. And the ones who did make it home, most were strung out on heroin because there was plenty of opiate poppy fields over in Saigon in Vietnam. And he talked about that. Berry Gordy was pissed, but Marvin didn't give a fuck. Marvin put his career on the line with this album. And the gangsters told Marvin not to put the album out because they did not want the brothers to be waking up. They wanted to keep them asleep and keep them drug addicted where they would die in the streets like dogs. But Marvin done his best to change the structure of the game in the black community. And What's Going On, everybody began to relate to it. And to this day, it is a smash hit. And Marvin had reached the top once again. Berry Gordy was on Marvin's dick. And they ate off of Marvin, taking advantage of Marvin based on the fact that his head wasn't clear from the drugs and alcohol. And so Marvin was more interested in getting the message out than becoming a multi-millionaire. But he made other motherfuckers rich, especially them Guinea motherfuckers. But he couldn't get a Grammy for What's Going On, but he gets one for Sexual Healing. See, he couldn't get one for waking the black community up, but he gets one for talking about fucking. And that fucked Marvin up, as you can see. But Marvin kept on performing, still dealing with his addiction, struggling. His marriage went down the drain, but he still managed to put a persona on that everything was okay. Marvin had 3 children, which he was a dedicated father. And these are things that they don't tell y'all, these crackers, when they do these biographies on these brothers. They don't say how good of a father they were and how good of a black man they were. They talk about the negative shit. And that troubled Marvin. He had a lot of heavy shit on his mind. And what they did, his father, who was dealing with a lot of issues, homosexual issues. He was a cross-dresser. He was addicted to Valiums and 100 proof vodka. And at the same time, he was pastor of his church. So it was a lot of things going on. And he despised secular music, which was a lie. Because I'm quite sure when he put on his dress and his wig, he didn't play Mahalia Jackson. So it was based on a lot of jealousy. And when the Guineas saw this was a grand opportunity to take Marvin out. And he tried his best. He made more money than his father would ever make. He gave his father a suitcase full of money, and his father wasn't satisfied. Because Marvin's father was one of the biggest hypocrites I've ever read about. And so the Italians wanted to extort Marvin again. But Marvin said he was not going to make another sexual album until he do part 2 of What's Going On. And they went back and forth. Berry Gordy pleaded with Marvin, and Marvin stood his ground. And so these skinny motherfuckers who actually think that a black man is not supposed to stand up to these motherfuckers. And so the orders were put in to take Marvin out. Now his father was charged with the murder, but his father didn't kill him. His father agreed to take the charge based on the fact they had all these false alarms where the police was coming to the house, and Marvin's father used to call the police when they argued, just to have it on record like they were fighting, and to set up a motive for Marvin's father to take the beef. But the Italians came in and kicked the door and shot Marvin. And to this day, his sister, that's Marvin lying in state, his funeral, to this day, a lot of people still cover up the lie that his father shot him, which is a damn lie. The Italians murdered Marvin Gaye, and they took the masters from the other part of the What's Going On album and destroyed it, which probably is worth billions of dollars right now. Jesse Martin, who plays on Law and Order, is supposed to be portraying Marvin. I think that's a good pick. I think he'll do wonderful because he has a wonderful voice too. Marvin's daughter, Nona, became an actress as well as a phenomenal singer. She's done very well for herself. She's a gorgeous woman. She looks like her father, as you can see. That's his sister, Leola, who lied about she witnessed her father shoot Marvin. She was paid to do that. And she knows that. This is Marvin's adopted son, Marvin III, who right now, who was born in 1965, right now needs a kidney transplant, whose health